6:17 a.m. The world changes in a single, indifferent breath. A pale flash ripples across the upper atmosphere. Too slow for lightning, too quiet for an explosion. It glows for 3 full seconds, suspended above the hemisphere like a pulse someone pressed against the sky. And then the phones begin to vibrate. They do not ring one by one. They tremble together. Every device, every network, every country. Screens bloom with the same emergency pattern, flooding living rooms, bus aisles, train platforms, and breakfast tables. A global alarm without a human voice behind it. People freeze mid-step as the alert expands across the world's surface, like a cold tide. And in that silence, something irreversible begins. The message is simple. Not a warning, not a request. A sentence carved into digital space. Non-human military presence detected. Cease all global hostilities. Earth has 14 days to comply. The words feel wrong on the screen. Too measured, too calm, too familiar in their structure, yet unmistakably foreign. A mother in Tokyo stops, stirring her tea. A commuter in London slowly lowers his phone. Children waiting for school buses stare at their screens without understanding what they're seeing. The narrator's voice remains steady. This is the moment humanity realizes the sky is no longer empty. 7 a.m. NORAD's radar feeds fracture. Lines of data skip, warp, and dissolve. Operators blink at screens that no longer display aircraft or weather or satellite patterns, only voids where readings should be. Civil aviation halts because no pilot wants to fly blind into a blank sky. Planes drift back toward runways, filling them like stranded metal birds, waiting for an instruction that never comes. In cockpits across the world, pilots whisper to each other through static-filled radio, hoping someone still hears them. High-altitude cameras capture something faint at the edges of the thermosphere. Shapes without propulsion, without signature, without heat. They hover with intention, as if observing. 8:30 a.m. Governments begin speaking behind encrypted doors. Presidents, prime ministers, admirals, and generals sit in front of glowing screens, waiting for an explanation from anyone who sounds certain. The phrase, 14 days, repeats more often than any prayer. No one in the room looks at each other. When the translation software confirms the same meaning in every known language, it isn't diplomacy. It's a deadline. Outside these rooms, crowds gather around televisions. There is no anchor capable of softening the truth. Network voices crack as they read statements that sound like fiction. Unidentified aerial formations, stable, structured, responding to gravitational fields in non-Newtonian patterns, monitoring global activity. In every broadcast room, someone turns down the lights, as if dimming the room will reduce the scale of the problem. 10 a.m. Streets, everywhere, begin thinning. Not because people are panicking, but because people no longer trust the sky. Supermarkets fill with quiet footsteps. Hands move quickly across shelves. Cans, water bottles, batteries, and radios vanish. Cashiers scan items mechanically, their eyes drifting toward the windows every few seconds. ATMs spit out their last notes as networks strain. Card readers beep louder than usual, as if nervous. Above the city, power lines hum with unnatural tension. Lights flicker across districts in a synchronized wave, as if the world is breathing through electricity. The air feels heavier. People sense it in their throats before their minds catch up. And then come the first rumors. They're already here. Rumors spread not through words, but through glances, short, sharp looks shared between strangers who suddenly feel connected by fear. 12:45 p.m. A joint scientific military panel appears on global feeds. Their expressions are tight, their posture rigid. The lead scientist reads the statement without looking up. The objects are under intelligent control. They observe our defensive structures. They respond to our probes. They are stationary by choice, not by limitation. The word choice drains color from millions of faces. Moments later, stock markets close themselves, instinctively protecting what the world can no longer guarantee. Borders shut. Embassies lock their gates. Highways run empty, except for military convoys moving with disciplined urgency. 3 p.m. The Admiral speaks for the first time. Not publicly, not for comfort, He delivers his message to global security leaders during a closed briefing. Words never intended for anyone outside that room. His voice is steady, calm, surgical in its clarity. If they attack, you won't last 14 seconds. The sentence hangs in the air like a suspended blade. No one responds. No one breathes. The recording ends abruptly. Only a soft click marks the moment when humans run out of language. The narrator's voice lowers. A truth spoken in private can feel louder than any siren. Sunset arrives early. Cities dim before they mean to. Power grids sag under pressure from an unseen force. Their rhythms unstable. Lights flicker in apartment towers and then steady again, like a heartbeat struggling to maintain its pace. People close curtains without realizing they're doing it. Instinct takes over. Stay inside. Stay low. Stay quiet. In the remaining daylight, the sky glows faintly. Not like dawn, not like dusk, but like something active behind the clouds. Like a pulse waiting to be felt. Night approaches as a shape rather than time. The hum of civilization weakens. Dogs refuse to bark. Drones deployed by news agencies drift upward, only to lose signal a few hundred meters above rooftops and fall back like leaves. And then, without warning, a sound rises across global radio. The first change in hours. Not a voice, not words. A pattern. Rhythmic, mechanical, repetitive. Almost like a countdown disguised inside static. Operators freeze. Civilian radios flicker. Emergency channels fall silent except for the pattern. People lean closer to their devices, waiting for something, anything, to give meaning to the sound. But it never resolves. It never clarifies. It only grows colder. The narrator ends the first 24 hours with a single observation. Daylight leaves the world with a quiet understanding that time is no longer measured by clocks, but by something watching from above. Dawn arrives without color. The sun lifts, but its light feels thinner, washed out, as if it has to fight through something unseen. Shadows stretch across empty streets where warm cars sit exactly where people abandoned them the night before. Engines off, doors locked, windshields covered in a soft film of dust kicked up from the world, holding its breath. Civilization is awake, but its heartbeat is slower, measured, cautious. Storefronts remain dark. Airport runways glisten with dew, but hold no departures. Boats float silently in harbors, tied but unsettled by the tide. The narrator observes the change with restrained precision. The planet is still functioning, but every movement feels rehearsed, as if humanity is waiting for a cue that hasn't arrived. 6:45 a.m. People are awake before their alarms vibrate. Fear adjusts the human sleep cycle before science ever studies it. Sidewalks remain empty, but windows glow faintly with early morning lights. Homes becoming shelters by necessity, not design. Coffee shops remain closed. The smell of roasted beans does not drift into the streets. Churches open their doors earlier than usual, not for sermons, but for silence. There are no hymns, no speeches. Only people standing inside quiet buildings, listening to the echo of a world that feels thinner. Children stay indoors. School buses never start their routes. Authorities issue a soft statement advising civilians to avoid unnecessary travel, yet the advice is followed more faithfully than any mandate ever written. People do not need to be told to fear what they cannot see. 10 a.m. High above the earth, military satellites attempt control communication. A precisely targeted laser pulse signal reaches toward the objects in the upper atmosphere. There is no reply. Instead, the temperature in the region around those objects shifts by a measurable margin, unnaturally fast, unnaturally coordinated. Scientific teams stare at thermal maps that update in geometric patterns, the kind no natural system could make. Clouds begin forming in shapes that defy wind direction. Rectilinear structures, symmetrical spirals, perfect arcs. Meteorologists are the first to speak the quiet truth. They're shaping the atmosphere. The narrator does not elevate his voice. He lets the weight settle. Mapping a planet does not require conversation, only observation. 1 p.m. Social media halts. Not one platform, every platform. Posts freeze mid-scroll. Live streams collapse. Notifications vanish. A global freeze described as security filtering by governmental agencies, though no one believes the explanation. Videos claiming sightings vanish from feeds as quickly as they appear, replaced by placeholder messages stating content review in progress. In the absence of communication, rumors grow. A flickering light above Siberia. A shadow moving across the Mediterranean Sea. A vibration felt under the streets of Sao Paulo. None verified. All believed. People turn from screens to radios, seeking signals that feel less manipulated. Static dominates most frequencies, a kind of harsh snow that scratches the air. Only emergency channels operate consistently, broadcasting small, steady messages. Stay calm. Stay indoors. Remain informed. Do not speculate. But speculation spreads like smoke through every quiet home. 4:30 p.m. The world's economy enters a mode it has no name for. Banks limit withdrawals without admitting they are doing so. Corporations shut down non-essential servers, citing energy stabilization needs. Trading systems enter safety hold status, a phrase invented in real time for an event no textbook ever prepared for. Grocery chains distribute internal documents resembling Cold War-era pamphlets on rationing. Managers read the instructions twice before opening doors, knowing some items will not last until nightfall. The narrator traces every detail with calm steadiness. Fear does not empty shelves. Uncertainty does. Families leave stores carrying fewer bags than they hoped, not because they lacked money, but because supply trucks never arrived. Even the sound of distant vehicles becomes rare, an unnatural quiet settling over cities built to roar. 6 p.m. A vibration ripples across the planet. Lights blink. Screens flare. Phones wake themselves. Every device, every model, every location. For 3 seconds, the entire digital world breathes in unison. Then the message appears. Not written. Spoken. A voice synthesized perfectly in all major human languages. Earth's compliance is required. Day 13 begins. The message contains no instruction, no threat, no elaboration. It ends as abruptly as it came, leaving a vacuum that fills instantly with dread. The timing is not accidental. It is coordination. It is intention. The narrator's tone tightens slightly, still steady. Humanity is now functioning on a countdown it did not create. 9 p.m. The night arrives without stars. Astronomers report an interference dome, thin, translucent, almost like a second sky imposed over the real one. City lights reflect strangely against the barrier, giving streets a dim, metallic hue. It feels as though someone placed a lid over the world. The atmosphere itself hums differently. Not loud, more like a low vibration that never fully resolves into sound. Animals respond first. Dogs refuse to step outside. Birds vanish entirely. Insects go quiet. People notice the stillness. They glance upward, but the dome reflects no movement, no shapes, only distortion, like a sheet of glass being warped by unseen pressure. Midnight. The Admiral's leaked statement appears online. Not from an official channel. Not from government servers. From an anonymous device pinging from somewhere near the Pacific. A shakily uploaded video. His voice, calm, unbroken, repeats the words he never intended the world to hear. If they attack, we won't last 14 seconds. Panic, contained until now, begins to slip through cracks. Governments deny the authenticity of the recording, releasing statements that feel scripted, fragile. But civilians listen to tone, not authority. The Admiral's tone is unmistakably real. The narrator captures a shift with surgical clarity. For the first time, humanity stops asking what these beings want and begins asking what humanity can do. This is the moment when the psychological ground beneath the world begins to tilt. Quietly, steadily, with a gravity that does not let go. 5 a.m. The world wakes before the alarms again. Light edges across the horizon, but it feels colder than yesterday, as if passing through a thinner atmosphere, a dimmer filter. Air tastes metallic. People feel it on their tongues before they realize it isn't imagination. A low-frequency vibration hums beneath the cities, steady, distant, almost like a power station buried beneath the earth. No one knows its source. Everyone senses its meaning. Streets remain empty except for military vehicles moving slowly, engines muffled, generators thrown behind buildings, each one coughing out its last reserves of fuel. Surveillance drones rise into the early sky, but lose clarity the moment they cross beyond 200 meters. Something above is interfering, something that does not want to be watched. Homes glow with early morning light. Curtains remain closed. Families gather around silent televisions, waiting for updates that come later than expected. The narrator's voice floats evenly through the moment. Humanity has reached a point where fear no longer shouts. It whispers, and the whisper is enough. 7:30 a.m. A global broadcast interrupts every channel. Not with urgency, but with controlled precision. The Navy SEAL Admiral appears against a plain backdrop, alone, shoulders squared, expression immovable. He does not greet the world. He does not soften his tone. He speaks as if addressing soldiers minutes before deployment. We cannot outrun them. His voice is calm, almost measured. We can only outthink the moment. No rhetoric, no inspiration, only clarity. Cameras zoom gently closer. There are faint shadows beneath his eyes. Days without sleep, the weight of carrying knowledge meant for leaders, not for civilians. Yet he stands without trembling, his stance becoming a silent anchor for billions watching him. A single controlled exhale cuts through the audio like a warning wrapped in composure. We hold position. We prepare. We maintain discipline. He ends the broadcast without dramatic pause, without farewell. The screen fades to black, leaving the world suspended in his aftertone. Resolve without illusion. 9 a.m. Civilian shelters activate across the planet, not in panic, through measured, structured motion. Subway stations become underground sanctuaries where voices stay low. Children hold blankets rather than toys. Adults clutch radios instead of phones. Stadiums once filled with cheering crowds now hold silent families sitting in evenly spaced rows, staring upward as if listening for something to the concrete ceiling. Water is distributed by military escorts who speak softly, refusing to feed hysteria. Lines move efficiently. Fear has evolved overnight into something disciplined, almost ritualistic. The narrator observes. There comes a point in every crisis when humanity no longer resists fear. It organizes itself around it. 12 p.m. Atmospheric pressure shifts. Barometers across continents drop simultaneously, as if obeying a single command. Glass windows tremble in unison. Weather systems flatten. Ocean surfaces calm into unnatural stillness. Ripples are raced as though gravity has slackened. Naval fleets report the same sensation at the same moment. Something is watching from all directions. Not sonar contacts. Not radar pings. A feeling, described by hardened officers as a cold presence surrounding metal hulls with deliberate precision. Ships sit on calm water that feels less like ocean and more like a hell breath. Scientists detect electromagnetic arcs forming along the upper atmosphere. Thin, sharp lines of energy bending around Earth's curvature. Patterns no human machine could produce. The sky becomes a quiet network of signals. None address the humans. The narrator lets the weight settle. Observation has become containment. 3 p.m. A private message circulates among global leaders. The Admiral has sent a final statement. It is shorter than the world expected, calmer than the world deserves. We cannot surrender humanity. We surrender only when thought ends. His words are a refusal, not a negotiation, but a despair. A declaration that humanity's identity is not something that can be taken in exchange for safety. The message leaks within minutes. Screens light up across continents. Silence fills rooms as people read the sentence again and again, as they try to understand the kind of courage that exists outside survival instinct. Outside, the sky darkens, not with storm clouds, but with alignment. 5:40 p.m. It begins without sound. Clouds peel away from each other like pages being turned by an unseen hand. Light bends across the horizon in geometric columns, shining straight upward instead of downward. Structures of illumination, suspended above the oceans. The colors shift between white, silver, and a tone of blue unknown in nature. Sensors attempt to register the phenomenon. They freeze, reboot, freeze again. Satellites flicker offline for 3 seconds. When they return, their readings make no logical sense. Energy signatures without sources. Coordinates that move faster than calculation. Structures that appear and disappear between frames, as if reality is being cross-examined. Yet nothing touches the ground. No beam descends. No strike follows. The lights simply watch. 7 p.m. The world holds its breath. Television anchors lower their voices, as if loud speaking might provoke something. Families gather around dim radios, waiting for information that feels increasingly suspect. People move slower, breathe quieter. Even children sense the tension in the air. Power grids enter emergency mode. Lights across cities dim until streets glow with a muted amber hush. A world unsure whether to prepare for ending or continuation. Far on the ocean, the admiral stands on the deck of the U.S. flagship, staring at the horizon where the geometric lights hover. He does not speak. He does not move. He observes, the way a soldier observes an enemy preparing a decision that cannot be read. There is no negotiation, no communication, only presence. A silent exchange between species, held in the space between intention and outcome. 11:59 p.m. The sky contracts. The dome thinning above the atmosphere ripples once, like a curtain being lifted slightly. The geometric lights retract into narrow pillars, then dissolve. Energy readings drop. Sensors stabilize. For one moment, the world seems to exhale, but the quiet does not soothe. It unsettles. Phones vibrate again. One synchronized pulse. Every screen flickers white. Then the final message of the first day appears. Day 12 begins. No explanation. No assurance. Only the countdown. The signal cuts. Silence folds over planet like a blanket pulled tight. The narrator's voice lands with the weight of a closing door. And in that silence, humanity understands that survival is no longer measured in battles won, but in the discipline to remain human when the universe arrives to test the limits of our resolve.